Hello folks, let's look at some advanced constraint. We have the constraint types such as deferrable or immediate. Deferrable and immediate, these are two new concepts of constraint. What is a constraint? Constraint, as we mentioned before, constraint is a rule that governing the insert, delete, and update item on a table. Now, in the advanced scenario, let me bring you a page to show you a scenario. Let's consider that there is a transaction start at checkpoint A and end the transaction at checkpoint C, end of checkpoint C, which is 9:34 a.m. Let's consider a scenario. I'm rushing to my bank on 9:30 a.m. and depositing $2,000 on my checking account that from a check that I received for Mr. Scott Tiger. He has the same, he has account on the same bank. Then at the end of that transaction, at the middle of that transaction, I'm asking, could you also move $5,000 from my saving account to my checking account? This is another transaction. Take place at 9:33. Between 9:31 to 9:34, Mr. Steve is another station of the same bank and try to withdraw $7,000 from my account. See, this scenario that we consider right here, this scenario, is a complete transaction. A transaction started at checkpoint A and ended at checkpoint C. I cannot run an example for you and show you in the book that how this example worked out. But that's the scenario. This is the beginning of the transaction on my account. This is the end of the transaction that removed $7,000 from my account. Now, two scenarios could happen. Immediate deferrable or deferred or immediate. Deferred is a scenario that if Mr. Scott at 9:31 get in the bank and try to withdraw the money, then the computer, the table insertion, delete and update my account, it's going to try to remove $7,000. Then you find out there is a transaction, the communication, a statement executed, and following some other statement is the process to be executed. If it is deferrable, it's going to wait until end of this transaction, at the end of the transaction to at 9:33. And bank teller account, you're going to say it's working on it. And when it committed, then you can withdraw your $7,000. Steve can remove the $7,000 from my account. However, let's consider immediate. Immediate, still I deposit $2,000 and the $5,000 try to move from my saving to checking. This transaction still is in process, but Steve, he tried to remove the money from my account. He going to deposit the check and the bank immediately look at my deposit, which I have before this one. And then he going to say not sufficient money. So immediate reject the check and deferrable in this scenario allowed transaction to be completed. That's what we call it, the deferrable versus immediate, or deferrable initially deferred versus immediate. Now, in the instruction to do this type of activity, this advanced activity, we have to do this one in our table. In our table, when we design in the table, we have to put the rule that governing that table. So let me bring the screen up. Oh, I'm going too fast. I hope that you can see that one. Now, the scenario of when we creating alter table, add constraint, dp2 idpk, primary key is this one, but this constraint that we putting in this table, we're going to set deferrable initially defer. And this is deferred the complete transaction of this transaction. from beginning to end, and beginning deferrable transaction from beginning to end 9:30 to 9:34 as one transaction. Defer this transaction until the last piece of the transaction on my account have been committed. When it committed, the $7,000 will be removed. Now, immediate is a scenario that regardless of what is the status, if the deposit take place on 9:33, still it won't look at it, and it look on the status of before 9:30, and just you're going to reject the check, and immediately the transaction roll back and terminate it. So that's the concept of the immediate and deferrable. When you're putting the constraint, you're adding the constraint like this one, you modify the constraint, set it up to immediate like this one. Or you may set up all the session for this proper user to deferrable. I lost my page. There you go. You may alter the session for Mr. For example, my name, Scott Tiger, or whatever, my name. All is session alter, all session of this type of user, this type of activity in the current table, set the constraint to immediate. Immediately terminate any transaction we didn't commit it. Thank you so much.